All right, so today in class we worked on our study guide, and because your test is going to be on SchoolNet, I didn't want you to do your study guide on paper and then kind of have to convert to the iPad and then not practice the way we're going to test. So the first question asked you if we dilated C by a factor of 2. So you take your point, C, which is over to 6, and then up 4. So your point is 6, 4. And you want to dilate it. So that means you're going to multiply both the x and the y by a factor of 2. So that becomes 12, 8. So in your drop-down menu, you've got all these different options. Your point's going to be 12, 8. All right. So then we were looking at the next question, and it's giving you coordinates, and you're not going to necessarily use all the options. So there are going to be a couple of questions like this, and you're going to have to figure out, okay, which pieces do I have to use? Now this one says that you're going to rotate it clockwise around the origin, which is what we're always going to rotate it around. But you can plot it. I'm going to give you graph paper, so you can plot it on the graph paper and then use the patty paper if that is what you want to do. Or you can use your notes, and this would be the rotations notes, and think about whether you're going to do clockwise or counterclockwise. So if I'm going 270 degrees clockwise, that means that I'm going to reverse my points and make the first one, so I'm going to reverse my points and make the first one the opposite. So instead of it being negative 2, 1, it's going to be positive 2, 1. Instead of it being negative 1, 3, it's going to be positive 1, 3. And instead of it being negative 3, 7, it's going to be positive 3, 7. And instead of it being negative 3, 2, it's going to be positive 3, 2. Now, you can find that information in your rotations notes, and it's going to tell you exactly how to rotate these. Or, and my advice would be to plot these out on graph paper and then rotate them using your patty paper. All right, a triangle ABC has angle A at 40 degrees, angle B at 60, and angle C at 80. It's reflected across the y-axis to obtain A prime, B prime, and C prime. What's the measure of angle B prime? Well, the angles don't change when things are reflected. The angles stay exactly the same. So it's still going to be 60 degrees. All right, for this one, when you're looking at it, you can see the two kites, and you can see your options are rotating, translating, reflecting. Those are your three options. So the prime is formed by reflecting, and you would rotate around the origin. You're going to reflect across the x-axis because the x-axis goes horizontally. All right, this one was a hard one for a lot of kids today. So because it doesn't give you multiple blanks, you can't rotate it, okay? I'm sorry, you can't reflect it because it's not giving you multiple blanks. I know a lot of you felt like you could reflect it and then translate it or reflect it twice. That's not an option here. It has to be rotated. And I know it has to be rotated because the A is at the bottom currently in your pre-image, and then in your image, it's at the top. So it was rotated, and then the only place it's going to be rotated around is the origin. All right, for this one was another one that was confusing for a lot of you. And when I looked at it, I figured out what it was. So I'm going to take a screenshot just to kind of bring it to your attention. So it says that it has to be reflected and then translated. So to reflect it, that means I'm going to have to move it 1, 2, 3 to the y-axis. So to get it 1, 2, 3, the yellow one just doesn't go far enough to reflect it across the y-axis. That's why it was only the red and the white. And I know that the white kind of lines up with the yellow, but the problem is it wasn't like moved at all. It wasn't translated. That's the only thing I can think of. It didn't do the slide. Otherwise, I can only assume that, because my opinion was then they could have slid it back. But that's why SchoolNet's only taking the yellow and the white. I'm sorry, the white and the red. All right, 0.34 is reflected over the y-axis. What are its new coordinates? So if it's reflected over the y-axis, it's 1, 2, 3 away. So now it's going to be 1, 2, 3 away. So it's going to be negative 3, 4. The rectangle is translated 2 units down and 5 units to the right. So 2 units down, 1, 2, and then 5. So 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's going to leave me with 0, negative 4. All right, now this one was another one that was confusing to everybody. And I'm going to, again, bring you back to your notes. And this is going to be in the dilation notes. And you take your image and you're going to divide it by the pre-image. And remember, your pre-image is always the letter that's not got the prime on it. So for this one, it would be 4. And for this one, it would be 3. So we have 3 over 4. So that's how they got B. It wasn't translated, which is how they would have gotten C or D. Translated means a slide, and that would have been C or D. It was dilated. Okay, so it was a dilation. It was made smaller. All right, for this one, it says, what was the sequence that shows the transformation? So if we're looking at it and it's saying A, B, C, that means that it goes in the same order, D, E, F. So A corresponds with D. So it says that it was rotated and then translated, or reflected and then translated. Well, if I'm looking at it, and I rotate it, it's upside down right now because F and C, it's been inverted, it's been reflected. So I know that it can't be rotate because it didn't stay in the same order. It didn't stay in the same position all the way around. I know that F and C are facing each other now, so it's being reflected. So it has to be A or B. And then it says that it was translated 2 units up or 2 units down. Well, if the pre-image was 1, 2, 3 units away from the x-axis, then the original point should have been 1, 2, 3 units. So this is where the original F should have been. So it was 2 units up from that. That's where it should have gone, was 2 units up. So it should have been A. So it was reflected across the x-axis and then translated 2 units up. All right, This one also was confusing for a lot of you. If I'm dilating a triangle by a scale factor of 4, I have to think what's going to change. The line segments, they're not going to be the same length, right? Because I'm multiplying them all by 4. The line that they're on, that's also going to change because I'm multiplying all my points by 4. The areas are all going to change because I'm multiplying the length and the width by 4. But the angles are not going to change. The angles are all going to stay the same. In a scaled copy, the angles always remain the same. All right. This triangle, again, my advice would be to graph the points on the graph paper and then use the patty paper. But if that's not your choice, that's totally fine. What we're going to do is you take you have X and Y, right? Then you reverse them so they become YX, and it's a negative because it says that you are hang on a second. It's 270 counterclockwise. Never mind, hang on. Let's look at it again. Since you're going counterclockwise, that would be 90 degrees clockwise. So 90 degrees clockwise would be the same as, okay, that would be the same as having X, Y, 90 degrees clockwise. You would reverse your points and you would make the second one the opposite, and you would make your X the opposite. Okay, so I would make this one 3, and then -5 would become a +5. -2, -3 would become a +3. 4, +3 would become a -3. Now let's hope that that's a possibility. Right there, B. So if that's how you want to go, you're going to look back in your rotation notes, and that's how you're going to make sure that you're rotating these correctly, because you are more than welcome to use that strategy. But if you want to use the patty paper, I'm strongly suggesting that too. Okay, you're rotating your square 180 degrees around what will be the coordinates for K. So if I rotate 180 degrees, all I'm doing is making the points negative. So if I've got, or I'm taking the opposite. So I've got +4, -1. So now I've got -4, +1. Okay, we're reflecting across the x-axis. What's going to be true? Well, if I reflect across the x-axis, and my advice would be to make a shape and do it, reflect it. Okay, the x and y coordinates are going to have opposite signs. Well, that's not true because the x coordinate is going to stay the same. Okay, the x and y are going to stay the same. Well, no, because the shape is moved, so obviously the y is going to be different. The x coordinate of the reflected is going to have opposite signs. No, the y is going to have the opposite signs. Okay, this was the last one, and it also had a lot of people confused. Okay, so for this one, a lot of you chose reflected and then moved, or translated, I should say. So if I reflected F, it would move here. Let me switch colors. It would move to here, and then it would move 1 unit. If I move E, if I reflected it across the x-axis, it would stay here, but it moves 3. So that tells me that I'm not reflecting. I have to be rotating. And then I'm going to move 1 unit to the right. All right, if you have any questions, let me know. Tomorrow morning I'll be free to answer any questions that you have. I tried to leave this open so that you could see which questions you missed. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.